We begin today the Gemara on Daf Samachei Amud Aleph, a couple of lines down from the top of the Yom, with 4 lines down where it says Mosiv Rav Avya. The Gemara here spoke about the halachas of a katana. What could a katana do as far as it comes to kinyanim, to acquire for himself, or to acquire not only for himself but for someone else? And the Gemara brought Rav Chista's opinion that says that no matter what age a katan or katana is on, he could only be zeicha for himself, but he can't be zeicha on someone else's behalf. So here the Gemara is going to bring a few questions in this. Most of Rav Avya, so Rav Avya asks from the halacha by Ma'aseh Sheni. So what's usually done with Ma'aseh Sheni? A person doesn't want to bring his produce, schlep all his produce to Yerushalayim, so the pasuk says you redeem it with money, and you bring the money to Yerushalayim. But now here it depends who's redeeming the Ma'aseh Sheni. When the owner of this produce redeems the Ma'aseh Sheni, he has to add to the value of the produce another fifth. But if someone else that's not the owner is redeeming it, so then he just redeems it for its value, and it does not have to add a fifth. So now this Mishnah here says, Ma'arimin al Ma'aseh Sheni. You can play this trick regarding redeeming this Ma'aseh Sheni and have someone else redeem it for you, and then you won't have to add a fifth. So Keitzad, how is this done? A person could say to his son or daughter, which are gedolim, or la'avdei v'shivchasia ivrim, or to a eved ivri, or to a shivcha ivriya, or amma ivriya as it's usually called. Hey lechem mai salalu. Here, take my money. Upadu ben ma'aseh sheni. I'm giving you my money, so now the money is yours, and you redeem this ma'aseh sheni zeh. Redeem this ma'aseh sheni for me, and then va'oichloi b'loi chaimish. And it's redeemed. He can eat this produce here, and he will not have to add the fifth that he would if he would be redeeming it himself. So he's giving them the money to redeem it for him. And in the Chiddush over here, Rashi says, when it comes to his own son and daughter, or these cases here, even if they are living with him, they're eating from his own table. They're not his son and daughter that are married and living somewhere else. They're living with him. But nevertheless, he could still give them the money. And when they redeem it, so it's not himself redeeming it, then you don't have to add a fifth to this. So the Gemara asks, Hi shivcha heichidami. When it says here that you can use your shivcha to give her the money to redeem it for you, what shivcha are we talking about here? If she has 2 hairs, the sign that she's already a gedolah, so then my boy gabe. Why would she still be a shivcha? A shivcha, as soon as she becomes a gedolah, she goes free. So it must be that she has no signs that she's a gedolah yet. And still it says you could use this shivcha for this. So now what is this shivcha doing here? She's redeeming the peiros that belong to hektish, that it should become chulin. She's not making a kinyan here. This redemption is not something for herself. She's doing it on someone else's behalf. And she has the power to do it. And also even the money, even before that, the money that she's getting from her master to go ahead and do this, she's not getting the money for herself. She's getting this money in order to redeem this fruit or this produce, this ma'aseh sheni. And she could be zeicha in it, not for herself, but for the purpose of redeeming this. So here I clearly see that even a katana, this shivcha, can be zeicha in something, not for herself, for someone else. So the Gemara answers, similar to what we said before in the Gemara, Hacha b'maya skinon here, what is it talking about? B'maiser b'zman hazeh derabanan. This is maiser today. Maiser today is only an obligation with the Rabbanon, so therefore over here, if it's a chiyuv with the Rabbanon allowed her to be mekel, that she could be zeicha in something for someone else's behalf. So the Gemara asks him this, how could you say so? We're talking here about an Amma Ivriya that's owned by a master. Is there such a thing of owning another Yid today? Whether an Eved Ivri or an Amma Ivriya, doesn't exist today. Because Vatanya, we learned in Abraisa, Ein Eved Ivri Noyik, El Bezman, Shai Yovel Noyik. Only when there was Yovel, then you could own another Yid as an Eved or an Amma Ivriya. And Rashi brings, because by Yovel it says, V'ishal Mishpachtoi Teshuvu, that when it comes Yovel, he returns to his family. So from that you understand that only when that's possible that he could return to his family and Yovel, then you could be an Eved. But otherwise there's no inyan of Eved Ivriya or Mivriya. So we can't be talking about Bizman Hazeh. Ella, the Gemara gives another answer, that it's talking about the Maises Midrabanan, Ba'atzit She'ein Enokov Derabanan. The produce over here of this Maises that we're talking about grew in a flower pot that's not perforated. So Minatayre, it has no chiyuv to give maestris because it's not getting its nourishment from the ground. Midrabanan, there's a chiyuv of maestris. That's what we're talking about. Omar Rava. Now Rava concludes the inyan here that we're talking about regarding ketanim. What do they have as far as acquiring and selling and so on? It depends on the ages, and there's 3 different stages for this. So Amar Rava Gimel Midis Bekatan. There are 3 different levels that are for a cotton, what he can do. If he's at the age where it's Shroyer V'Zarka, you give him a pebble, he throws it away. Ega is if you give him a nut, he understands that it's valuable, v'noitle, and he takes it for himself. So this is mature enough that Zeichel Atzmai, he could be kind of for himself, but vein Zeichel Acherim. But he can't be Zeicha on someone else's behalf. He doesn't understand what it means to be Zeicha for someone else. Now, connect on corresponding to this, in this same age over here of Tzreir V'Zarka and Eges V'Noitloi, the Ketana, if this is a Ketana, Miskadeshes Lemiyun. If she doesn't have a father, so the halacha is that a girl that doesn't have a father, and she's a Ketana, so her mother or her brothers can marry her off, and when they marry her off, she's married Midrabanan, and if she wants to leave that marriage, she has to be Memayin. She has to announce and say that she doesn't want this marriage, and then she leaves the marriage. So at this age, when she understands the value to take a nut, so then the kedushin that her mother or brother married her off takes effect, and she would have to be memayit. But Rashi says that younger than this age, the kedushin is nothing. She could just walk away without anything. There's no union of miyun at all. The next stage is ha'pu'utais. This was mentioned earlier in the Masechta. Children, it said before in the Mishnah, that mekech, that they're sale, that they can acquire, or memkara memker, and they could also sell. So that's already a older age that they could buy and sell. It said before in the Gemara that that's already from the age 6 or 8 up to 8 years old, depends how smart the child is. And now connect on the ketana corresponding to this. For a ketana, misgareshes b'kidushi avia. If her father married her off. Now, once her father married her off, this is a proper marriage minatayra. So before, we learned in Daf Samach Dal, the Mishnah said that there's a problem with divorcing a ketana. Why? Because she's mishalcha v'chezeres. You send her away and she comes right back. So there's no proper gedushin here. But at this age, pa'utais, from 6 to 8, so you can be megadisher and we shall leave and she won't come back. Now, the next stage of a cotton or a katana is they come to the age where they could make a neder, and this is 1 year before the bar or bas mitzvah. So for a girl, it's at 11, and for a boy, it's at 12. So over here, nedreim neder and vegdation hektish. If they make a neder, so then you have to go and see if they know what they meant to say when they made the neder, and if they made hektish, you have to see if they understood what it means, and if they did, then the neder takes effect, and the hektish takes effect. This is what's usually known as a mufla hasamuch leish. You get to this age, close to the bar bas mitzvah, so then you have to check to see if they understood. Now, connect on b'ktana, corresponding to this age, regarding a ketana, chiletzes, so she can have chalitza done. And Rashi says what this means is, in this age of a year before the bas mitzvah, if she has the simanim, if she has hairs that show that she's already a gedayla, so then chalitza could be done. The halacha by chalitza is that just like the man has to be a ish, he has to be a bar mitzvah to do chalitza, so too the woman has to be a isha to be able to do a gedayla, to do the bas mitzvah, to do the chalitza. But when she has simanim, hairs, from this age of 11 and forward, we rely on that she's considered to be an isha, that chalitza could be done. But younger than that age, even if there are hairs, even if there are simanim, it doesn't mean anything. Now, v'limkar b'nichsei aviv, however, for a person to have the maturity to be able to sell from his father's properties, and we're talking here not just about metaltalim, but karkais, even to sell pieces of land, for that, you have to wait, ach yehei ben esrim. So he can't sell until he becomes 20 years old. Until then, he's considered to be a cotton regarding selling properties that he inherited from his father. Because to understand this, you have to have a much greater level of maturity to understand the significance of it. Zok the Heilige Mishnah, continuing with halachas of a ketana, regarding if she appoints a shliach to receive a get for her. Ketana sha'omra hiskabali giti. A ketana that appoints a shliach to receive a get for her. So ain't a get. If the husband send the get, it won't be a get get liyada, until she gets the get to her hands. Why? Because she cannot appoint the shliach. A ketana has no das, and so therefore her shlichus is not a shlichus. The husband though, if he sends the get to her, she becomes divorced. So lefichach imratza balachzer yachzer. If the husband wants to retract of this divorce, he can retract until she receives the get. She'ein cotton oisa shliach. A cotton cannot appoint a shliach. If the father of this ketana says to the shliach, go and receive the get for my daughter, So then, if the husband wants to retract from this get after he gave it to the shliach, he can't, because the father could appoint a shliach and it becomes a gedushin right away. Another halacha, 10 getze leishti b'mokim ploini. The husband says to the shliach, give the wife the get, my wife the get, in that place. V'nosni lo b'mokim acher. And he didn't listen, he gave the get in a different place. So then pasul, the get is pasul. Because the husband was very specific, he wanted the get should be in one specific place. He knows the people in that place, and he doesn't want people in another place that should be speaking bad about him, and he wants it afka there. Now, what if the husband used a different language? He said to the shliach, Harehi b'makom ploini. You want to find my wife? You'll find her in this place. V'nosni lo b'makom acher. And the shliach went, and he found her somewhere else, and he gave it to her somewhere else. Then kosher. Then the get will be kosher, because he's just telling his wife, his shliach, where his wife is. He's not being makpid here. He's just helping him to find his wife. So the Tanakam here says a similar thing also. When the wife says to the shliach that she appointed, receive for me my get in this particular place, and he went to a different place and got the get for her in a different location, it's also possible. She's makbid. She only wants the shlichus to take effect if he receives the get in that place. But Rabbi Lazar argues, Rabbi Lazar machsher, regarding the wife that makes this condition, receive it only over here, and he received it in a different location, doesn't matter. The get will still be kosher. And the Gemara will explain why. Now, havali giti mimakom pleni. What if the wife says, bring me my get from this place? She didn't appoint him to be a shliach to receive the get, but she appointed him to be the shliach to bring her the get. Ve'vila mimakom acher, and he brought her the get from a different place, then kosher. Then the location where he got it from doesn't make any difference. She's not getting divorced anyways by him receiving the get there in that place. He has to anyways bring the get back to her. So where he got it from doesn't make a difference. According to Rabbi Lazar, why in the Reisha, when the Tanakama speaks about a husband that says very specifically which location he wants that he should give the get to the wife, there the Rabbi Lazar does not argue. In the Sefer, when it comes to the wife appointing a shliach where he should receive the get, there Rabbi Lazar argues and says that there's no kiped, it doesn't matter. Answers the Gemara, the difference is, the husband, when he divorces his wife, so it's only with his das, he's the one that decides willingly, with his consent, to give the get. So therefore, cup it. When he says, I want you to give the get to my wife in this particular place, so we can accept that Hitakim means to be particular about this, and otherwise she won't be divorced. But Ihi, the Balkarcham is Gareshes. But the wife, she gets divorced even against her will. If the husband decides to divorce her, you don't need her consent, Bachlal. So therefore, she comes and starts setting conditions that you should receive the get here, don't receive the get there. Does she have the power to do that? How does she know that the husband will agree to give the get only in this location and not in another location? So therefore, even though she said so, but she's not makbid on that, because she knows it's not in her hands. So she says giving him the place of a location where to go and get the get from, but she's not makbid that otherwise the get should not take, that her shlichus and the get should not take effect. If a wife sends someone to go and bring the get for her, so then, since the get does not, the gedushin does not take effect until the shliach comes back to her. If she's married to a kohen, she's still married until she gets the get, so she can continue eating truma get liyada until the get comes to her hands. But if she appointed a shliach eskabeli giti, go and receive the get from me, which means that the gedushin takes effect as soon as the shliach receives the get. Then asura lechol betruma miyad. As soon as the shliach leaves, she'll be also to eat truma, because you never know where and when he's going to find the husband. It could be he got the get from the husband right away, so she can't eat truma immediately. Taisus here actually says that this she can't eat truma immediately is a chumra midrabanan, because really she has a cheskas eishes. She's really married to this man, and we don't even know if he found the husband, did not find the husband, and whether the husband will agree to give the get, will not agree to give the get. So there's a few sveikis here, but nevertheless, because as far as she's concerned, she appointed him to be a shliach to receive the get and be divorced right away, we're machmir that she can't eat truma. Now, if she said to the shliach, "Eskabeli giti b'makom ploini," receive from me the get in this location, oicheles betruma. So she's allowed to eat truma until the shliach that received the get in a different location will come with this get to that location where she said, receive the get from me. Okay, now Rashi here points out that what the Mishnah is saying here is that she doesn't have to actually receive, the shliach does not have to actually receive the get in that place where she said, complaining. As long as he brings the get to that place where she said, then she'll be divorced. So the Gemara will address this. Why doesn't he have to receive the get in that place where she said? Rabbi Lazar says, even if she said and that you should receive the get from me in one specific place, it doesn't matter. As soon as the shliach leaves, she becomes divorced right away. And this is based on what Rabbi Lazar said in the previous Mishnah. She can't set any conditions for this. She doesn't know if the husband will even agree, so it doesn't make a difference. Frek the Gemara regarding this case that the husband says, receive from me a get in this place. What did the Mishnah say? That if he got the get there, so she's not divorced until he brings the get to that place where she said to receive the get for him. Again, it was the wife that said the place, not the husband. Again, the wife set the conditions, so she's not divorced until the shliach brings the get to that place. But why? The Gittin have it. You're telling me that when he brings the get to that place, she's divorced. But in the previous Mishnah, we said, according to the Tanakama, that loy have a Gittin, that it's not a get unless you actually receive the get in that place where the wife said to receive it. And this is the Gemara. The case over here in our Mishnah is different than the previous Mishnah. The woman said a condition, but the condition was different. The Amr Alei, she did say to the Shliach, Eskabeli Gitta b'masa machasya. For example, receive from me the get in this particular place, masa machasya. But then she added, V'zimnin de mishkachas lo b'bavel. Sometimes he may be in Bavel, which is not in masa machasya. So she basically clarified and said, Lav dafka, you have to receive the get in masa machasya. Now, what did she mean to say by this? So the Gemara explains. This is what she's telling the shliach. Mishkal kol hechet mishkachas le shakle minei. You can receive the get from him wherever it is. It doesn't have to be dafka in that location. But v'gita lo have. But the get, the divorce, should not take effect until you come to masa machasya. The divorce should not take effect. That's the pshat over here in this condition that she made. Okay, there's a discussion here in Taisus and the Rishonim. If that's the case, then when the husband gives her the get, she's not really getting a get for Gedishin. And then later, when she's holding it in her hands and it becomes a get later, how does it become a get? Once it's already in her hands, not l'shem Gedishin. It's just like if a husband puts a get on the table and then later on she goes and takes that get, it's not a divorce. How could it be a divorce now, later on, when she comes to a different location? Okay, so Taisus has a few answers for this. The second answer in Taisus is that it's basically like the husband giving her a get with a condition that the get should not take effect for another 30 days. So the mice of the Gedishin is in the beginning, but it only takes effect later. Here as well, the mice of the Gedishin is wherever it was, and then the Gedishin takes effect when you come to Masa Mechasya. Okay, the next part of the Mishnah it said, Rabbi Lazar oisim miyad. Rabbi Lazar says, even if the wife set a condition, receive the get from me in this place, if she's married to a kohen, she becomes asa to eat the truma right away, because according to Rabbi Lazar, a woman cannot set any conditions. Says the Gemara Pshit, this is obvious according to Rabbi Lazar's opinion in the previous Mishnah. Rabbi Lazar already said that it doesn't matter, she can't set any conditions. So why does he have to add this here again? The when the wife says a place, you're just saying where the husband is, but you can't set any conditions for the Gedishin. Answers the Gemara, the case over here is, the Amra Lei, she tells the Shliach, Zila Mizrach, I know that my husband went to the east. So go to that direction, you'll find the Isei b'Mizrach, that's where he is. Now the Shliach, the Shliach takes the get and he goes to the opposite direction. He goes to the west. So over here, even though she's not being makbid, but we know that the Shliach went mamish in the opposite direction of where she says the husband is. So ma the teime b'mayrav holese. If he went to the opposite direction there, we don't have to be chayshish that maybe the Shliach encountered the husband and she should be asked to eat truma right away. He's not in the mayrav. Kamash Malon, that's what the Mishnah is saying, that no, it's possible that the husband turned around, or it's still Dilma Bahadi the Ka'azal Megas Goispe. As he was going to the west, still he bumped into the husband there on the west. And V'yavle Gita, and he gave the Shliach the get, and therefore shall be divorced right away. Okay, here the Mishnah brings up a halacha regarding putting food for Erev Tchumen. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to walk out of the Tchum Shabbos, which is 2,000 amas, unless you put food there at the end of the 2,000 amas, and then you're able to walk from there another 2,000 amas. That's the halacha of Erev Tchumen. So over here as well, a person can send a shliach to place food for him there. So now, a person says to a shliach, Arev li, put for me food there for the Eid of Tchumim b'tmarim, and you should use dates. Ve'erev le begreigeris, and he didn't listen. Instead, he went and put dry figs. Or begreigeris, he tells the shliach, put for me there dried figs. Ve'erev le b'tmarim, but instead the shliach went and put dates. So he didn't exactly listen to what the Mishalech tells him. Tani Chad, in one brayse we learned Eruv Eruv, that it doesn't matter. The Eruv still takes effect, but for Tanya Idach, in a different brayse we learned Ein Eruv Eruv, that this Eruv Tchumah does not take effect because it's not exactly the food that he told him to put there. So what is who are these two brayses here? What's going on with the contradiction of these brayses? So Amar Rabbe, Rabbe says that we could resolve this by the halacha that we just learned here regarding a wife that wants to set a condition for a place where the shliach should receive the get. So therefore, lekashe, it's not a question. Ha Rabbanan. The brayse that says that it's not an eidov goes according to the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan said that even though a wife l'chayre cannot, for her, it doesn't make any difference where the get is going to be received because it's not even in her control b'chlal. But nevertheless, Rabbanan say that even if she says, receive the get from me in this location, if the shliach receives it in a different location, it doesn't take effect. So over here as well, regarding this Eidov, even though the Eidov could be a perfect Eidov, whether it's this food, whether it's another food, but nevertheless, if the shliach said, the Mishalech said, put greigeris, you can't put tamarim. So the Eidov doesn't take effect. And Rabbi Lazar, the other one that says that the Eidov takes effect is Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar says that since it makes no difference, it's the same Eidov, the food takes effect the same way, and for the Isha also she'll be divorced similarly, so therefore it takes effect. That's the two opinions here. Okay, so the Gemara explains, Ha-Rabbanon, the Amri Kepeda. This is the one brayse is the Rabbanon that say that the husband is makpid, or even the Isha is makpid as well. Right, the main machlokes is regarding the Isha, and therefore over here as well we say that the Mishalech said one food, it's a kepeda, and Harabalazad Amar, and therefore there's no kepeda for this since it's anyways the Eidov you have food here. It's just a difference of what food. It doesn't really make such a big difference. So therefore it's just Maramakim Iloi, and over here as well the Eidov will take effect. Rav Yosef Amar, however, Rav Yosef resolves these two brayses differently. He says Ha v'ha Rabbanon. Both of these brayses could be going according to the Rabbanon. Because according to the Rabbanon, so regarding a Isha, only by a Isha did the Rabbanon say that if she sets a certain place where she wants the get should be received, then it's considered to be a kapeda. Even though really she doesn't have the choice to decide, the husband may not want to give it there, but by a get, it's possible that in one location she doesn't want people to know that she's divorced, and only in another location. So over there, Dafka there, Rabbanon argued. Over here though, the Rabbanon would not argue. Here the Rabbanon would say, what difference does it make if the food used for the Eidov is greigeris or tamarim, the same thing. But what's the two brayses here? It's two different cases. Kan b'shaloi. Here's when you're sending a shliach to take from your own food for the Eidov. So then it doesn't make any difference for you. Kan b'shalchaveiroi. And over here, when the brayse says that it matters if you took the dates or the dried figs, is because you told the shliach, take from the food from my friend. So if your friend only gave you permission to use his dates for this Eidov, and now the shliach doesn't listen and goes and takes greigeris, your friend is makpid. Your friend only gave permission for one thing, not for something else. So Abaye asked on Rav Yosef, if you're saying that the way we resolve these two brayses is that it depends if it's your own food or you're taking from your friend, but ve'ela the Tanya, so now we have another brayse that you won't be able to resolve in this way, because the brayse says, person says to his shliach, also regarding an Eidov, Arev li b'migdal. Do the Eidov for me, and the way the Gemara understands now this brayse is, place the food in a migdal, in a closet or in a tower. And instead, he put the food in a different location. He put it in a dovkat. Or he said, put it for me in the shayvich, v'irav le b'migdal. So over here, it's just a question of the exact location where he put the get. Not the get, sorry, the Eidov. Now the Tanya Chade here as well, there's two brayses. Tanya Chade, Eruvi Eidov, and one brayse it says that the Eidov takes effect, with Tanya Idach, Ein Eruvi Eidov. And another brayse it says that the Eidov does not take effect. So over here, according to the pshat that we said in the beginning, that these two brayses is a machlokes Rabbanan and Rabbi Lazar, so we could say as well that these two brayses is a machlokes Rabbanan and Rabbi Lazar. But Hassam over there, Rabbi is asking Rav Yosef, Mai shaloi v'shal chavera ikke Hassam. Ikke. What difference? How could you say over here the answer you gave that it depends if it's your food or if it's your friend's food? Even if it's your friend's food, does it make a difference to your friend whether you're going to put his food into the migdal or into the shayvich? You took your friend's food, and he gave you permission to use his food. It doesn't make a difference to him. So how can we use the answer of Rav Yosef for these two braises here? So the Gemara answers, no, we misunderstood over here what this braise is saying. Hasam nami ikke paid the migdal or paid the shevach. Over there, it's not talking about the location where you place the eruv, but it's talking about from which fruits are you taking for this. He told this person, I want you to take the fruits that are in the migdal, and he took different fruits. He took the fruits that are in the shevach. So if it's your fruits, it doesn't make a difference to you. But if it's your friend's, so your friend only allowed you to take the fruits of the migdal and not from the shevach, or vice versa. So therefore, the same answer we said before applies here. So here, this Mishnah talks about a husband that's appointing Adam to go and write and sign a get and bring and give it to the wife. So if you told Adam very clearly, kisvu get, write the get, and give it to my wife, she'll be divorced. Now Rashi here says, the Chiddush is, even though seems to be very obvious to us, but the word get, we had actually before in the Gemara, it said the word get really does not necessarily mean a divorce. Get means any shtar, any document. But nevertheless, in the language, the way people speak, get means a get for divorce. So if you use this term, it's clear enough that it means that he's appointing them to give a get to his wife. Now, if he said to these Eidim that he's appointing a shluchim, Gershua, divorcer, or even though Gershua, theoretically, you could say Gershua just means expeller, doesn't necessarily mean a divorce. But nevertheless, we know that Gershua means Gerishin. He said, Kisvu igeres utnula, write this letter and give it to her. Now, the lashon of a letter over here in this context also means a get, because Rashi here brings part of the nusach of a get. It says in it, "V'dein di hevi leichim yinoi seifet tiruchin v'igeres shevukin." So in the get, it uses this term. So these are all expressions that mean to write and give her a get. However, if the husband said to a shliach or to the edim to shluchim patrua or parnasua, patrua doesn't mean to go and give her a get, but patrua could also mean that she should be exempt from maybe a loan that she's obligated to pay. Like Rashi says, the lashon of patur and chayva. Okay, or parnasua, give her parnasa. So parnasua doesn't mean a get either. Asula kinimus, do for her as the law is. Asula karoi, do for her what's appropriate for her. Laya maklum, all of these expressions doesn't mean anything. It can mean other things. It doesn't necessarily mean a get. So Tana Rabbanan and Abraisa we learned, like it said in the Mishnah, Shalchua, if he says to her, if he says to the Shluchim, that is, so Shalchua, send her, Shavkua, leave her go, Tarchua, these are all expressions that mean that you should write a get. Shalchua, Rashi says, that's what it says in the Pasuk. V'shulchami beisai. And Shavkua and Tarchua are both Lashonis that are set in the get, or that you understand clearly that it means divorce. However, if he said patrua, parnasua, asula kanimus, like it said in the Mishnah, and asula karoi, loya maklum, he said nothing. But here, though, the Gemara brings in a braise where it says different. Tanya, Rab Nosson says, regarding this term patrua, there's a tiny difference in the way it's said that will make a huge difference whether he means a get or something else. So Rab Nosson says, if he said patrua with a pasach, and actually when you read it with a pasach patrua, then the tes in this word is a dogosh, is emphasized. So the term patrua, dvarav kayamin, this actually means leave her go to be divorced. But if he said pitrua, you should pater her, then lo yamaklum. He didn't say anything. Now, what's the big significance? What's the difference between patrua and pitrua? The answer is that the word patrua could be in Aramaic or it could be in Lashon Kodesh. In Lashon Kodesh, the word patrua or pitrua just means pater her, and that means to exempt from paying a loan, a chayva that she has, the Lashon patur and chayva. But in Aramaic, the term patrua, get peturin. Get peturin means to send away. So therefore, it depends how this is said. Now the Gemara explains. Amar Rava, so Rava said Rab Nosson the Bavlahu, Rab Nosson, which was from Bavel. So Dayik, so to him, he says that there's a difference between pitrua le patrua. Pitrua is in Lashon Kodesh, and the test there is not dogosh, and over there pitrua means that you're saying to just pater from paying money. But patrua is in Aramaic, and over there patrua is another word, and it means to go and send her away. But Tana Didan, however, the Tana of our mission that makes no distinction, the Bar Eretz Yisrael, because he's from Eretz Yisrael, and he's not dealing with Aramaic expressions, loy daik. So therefore, he's not precise. He doesn't make any difference between these two expressions. Ibayalo, the Shaila was asked, Hoitziyua, if the husband says, take her out. Mahu, what does this term mean? So the Rashi says in the pasuk it also says viyotza. She leaves the house. Is viyotza like hoitziyua or maybe not? Is vuha, leave her to go. Hitirua, be mat to her. Hanichua, let her go. Mahu. Hayilula, do what's beneficial for her. Mahu. What does that mean? Asula kados, do for her like the das, which is a little bit different than kinimus, even though it sounds very similar. Mahu, what's the halacha? So the Gemara says, Pshait miyachada, let's resolve even one of these languages, what it means, is it a get or not? The Tanya, we learned in the Braise, asula kadas, if the husband uses this expression, asula kadas, or asula kenimus, just like the other expression of asula kenimus, or asula karoi, do what's appropriate for her, lo yamaklom. These are not l'shainis of the get, and the husband has said nothing.